Good afternoon.
Hi, Karsten. It takes a little bit to actually unmute.
Yeah, I always stay unmuted on the top left and use the mute on the bottom right.
Aha.
This is a bit confusing because the other people can no longer see whether I actually intend to speak, but it avoids this weird latency when trying to get
Right,
to
I should
speak.
probably do that. Smart, smart.
Hello? Is there anyone?
Yes, hello.
Oh, hi, Karsten.
Hello.
I couldn't hear anything. Hi, Ricard.
Hi,
Okay,
Thomas.
thank you. Hi, Francesca. Sorry, I was confused by the absolute silence in the room.
I think we're waiting for a couple more people, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really hard to see the actual participants between all these Jabber users, so you have to get rid of that clutter.
So I've just tried the approach you mentioned, Carsten, for muting, unmuting myself, and I managed to confuse myself, so I just stick to the latency.
Yeah, so my theory is that IETF meetings always start 4 minutes after the hour because everybody has to wrangle the conferencing system and log into data tracker and all those other
Right.
weird things.
That gives a bit less than 1 minute more. So be it. And I'll try to take notes during the meeting, but of course, any help is welcome.
Sure,
So,
I have them open.
Thanks. So let's get started then. Welcome everyone to this interim meeting of the core working group. I am Marco Tiloca, my co-chairs are Jaime Jimenez and Karsten Bormann. And as usual, the usual not well applies. Get familiar with that if you're not already. It's about IPR patents and so on, but it's also especially about our code of conducts. So be nice, polite, and professional to each other. And the agenda for today has 2 items. A new document that Thomas and Hank proposed on parameterized content format for co-op, and then hopefully the wrap-up around the problem details document based on the latest discussions we had last week. Any more topics to propose or any bashing? No, and I know from Thomas he has to leave at 15 UTC sharp for another meeting. So we should manage to close at least the first item before then. Okay, then Thomas, the floor is yours. You can request the sharing if you want.
Thank you, Marco, for slotting me in the first half of the meeting. Asked to share slides.
Like that.
Yes. Slides. Parameters. This one. Preview. Share.
I hope it's the right version because I saw 3 or 4 coming, but it should really be the latest one.
Sorry, the 03 should be the latest.
Yeah.
So what happens if I move? Okay, cool. Thank you very much. Okay, so
Sure.
so right, so this is for this parameterized content format drafted Hank and I pushed through the data tracker a couple of weeks ago, I think. But yeah, so it's about extending content formats, and yeah, of course, Co-op, what it does is it compresses aggressively across the board, and in particular, in the case of representation formats, it takes these 3-dimensional objects and replaces them with sort of hologram that we call the content format, right? And the content formats build on the observation that in a lot of cases the 3-dimensional space is really a single point, so we can squash it into a P, right? And on top of that, what we do is that we take that single point and alias it to an integer to further compress it, to squeeze out all the juice possible. And we have asked Ayana to maintain this content format registries as a compression dictionary for that, so that we can have a very efficient wire image. And this excellent wire efficiency, as this paraphrased Uncle Ben says, comes with a cost, because in exchange we get sort of bad flexibility, because we've basically glued together inextricably these 3 potentially moving parts. So while this may work well for media types that have constrained degrees of freedom, it's not optimal in the case once dealing with parameterized media types, of which we have 1 or 2 examples that are emerging in rats, and that's where basically I'm coming from. So yeah, we have these 2 slightly different spellings, so parameterized and parameterized. I don't know which one is the right one, so I will call it PCF for short, so we avoid any holy wars on naming which could hamper progress. And while the spelling of this thing may be somewhat tricky, the idea is pretty straightforward, and the idea is that we extend the usual uint16T with a list of key-val pairs that carry this any extra media type parameters. And I like to stress extra here, because content format may already encode media type parameters, but what we want to say with the key-val pairs, the adjoint key-val pairs, is that there are further things that we want to say about the media type. This translates to CDDL very simply in this way, where we have, at the core, we have an array with at the core the content format with usual 2 bytes, and then we have a list of 0 or more key-val pairs, name value pairs, where the name could be either textual, that is, the one that has been registered with the media type originally, or a numeric alias to provide a compact representation of that, and noting that this would require a new registry. And the long format of that is done according to 6838 restricted name syntax. Yeah, so a couple of excerpts from 6838, which is the media type RFC, right? So is the authority overall authority of this meta. What it says is that names are case insensitive, and the order is not important. And then also that is an error for if we get duplicated keys. And as far as parameters are concerned, says that there's no defined syntax. So there's no a priori syntax that we could say. That's the reason to have the any here, right, in the CDDL, because we don't know a priori what that is, and the registrations must specify the syntax for each of the parameters that they define. So. And also, it says it goes on and say, some transports impose restriction on parameter value syntax, which means when registering, one should look for the least problematic encoding, which usually means avoiding binary. Okay, application. So we have defined a PCF. And the natural thing that one does next is to try and use it for content negotiation, and therefore we need to define a parameterized version of accept and content format. And the idea is that we want to retain the semantics, in particular 406 and 415, want them to apply as is. And the thing is that by using PCF as the option value, one gets, supposedly increased flexibility. So I'll go forward and look at and show you the tables for the pContent-Format and pAccept options, which basically mirror their non-parameterized pair, in a sense that they have, same layout in terms of CU and R bits. And the only difference basically being, apart from the number, the value. In the case of the content format, you have binary value, which is the CBOR encoding of the PCF. Very simple. And in case of the pAccept, which is multi-valued, and that's the thing, you the extra thing on top, the cherry on top, you have the critical bit asserted, and but you also have the ability to express one or more of these parameterized content format. And Karsten, in an offline conversation, was pointing out that maybe this, instead of having the .cbor, we should have the .cbor seq to encode it as a cbor sequence. And I think I think that's right. That's right. So compared to the normal accept, you can have multiple things squashed into a single option. Yeah. So what does it mean moving to this multi-valued pAccept? Since we wanted to retain the exact semantics as accept, the critical bit is up, and because the critical bit is up, the implication is that a request which is not understood by the server will fail with 402. And so there's no way to soft fail this, and maybe that's okay. Because you fail and you retry with plain accept, and maybe the server side implements problem details with the unprocessed option that Christian proposed that could help the client to take the right decision instead of retrying blindly. Yeah, that's it. Okay, so yeah. Prior art. Karsten suggested to go through some prior art and gave me a couple of pointers. Then this morning, Chris mentioned his accept any draft that managed to fall through the cracks of my inbox, unfortunately. But accept any also is prior art here and should be, just below OCF, so you can see that invisible ink there. But the other prior art is effectively SNML, SNML data. Value, content format, and OCF content format version, which I will go through quickly. So 9193 defines this content format spec, which is a string representation of the content formats either as a as a string, a content format string, so media type and parameters and whatnot, or or another string, which is the decimal representation of the content format number. And in a way, very roughly speaking, PCF is a third type of this content format spec, which is sort of binary version of the string. So how that the two compare, well, this is something missing in this slide, but anyway, obviously the PCF based is more compact because, but on the other side, PCF depends on the existence of a content format that has been registered in the IANA, right? Because you need the integer value to put into the array, and this is quite a significant difference, because it's not that once you have defined a media type, you're done. You're set and done. You also need to round trip through IANA to get the code point that you can stash into the PCF. So that's the con. So this slide is a bit misleading because there seems to be only good things about PCF compared to this, but there is not. And compared to PCF, OCF seem to have hit the same rigidity we are discussing here, but they sort of work around it in a different way, in a more use case specific way, I would say. What they do, they exchange the endpoints, the OCF endpoints, if I understand correctly, exchange one single CBOR based content format, which is this application vendor OCF plus CBOR. And this is fixed, but it's versioned. And they decided, instead of putting the version in the media type, they decided to keep the media type cast in stone and use a couple of options to do version negotiation. And these options are as follow: 2049, 2053, OCF accept, and OCF content format version. So basically what they do, they pair these options to the usual accept and content format in order to describe the versioning for the media type, for their media type. And they have rules around backwards compatibility and support and version negotiation, of course. The interesting thing here is that because they solve this problem in a very specific way, they optimize for that, of course, and intelligently they split these 2 bytes into 5 and 6 bits, respectively, to encode the core semantic version format, which is major, minor, and patch. And so you have 110 that encodes to that thing, which end up into a 2 bytes integer. So looking at how that would translate into PCF, maybe this is a bit small, but in PCF this would look like, first of all, there would be one single option. Because you put together the content format and any parameters, and the way you would do that, you take 10,000, which is the application vendor OCF plus CBOR content format, and then you decide that version information is encoded as a parameter, or as a media parameter, and so you decide to allocate 0 to say version, for example, and then you have the integer value there, 112, which is the equivalent to this 840 in X. And what you get is a 9-byte wire image that, as I said before, fits into one option, right, instead of 2. So you can spare 1 byte there, and so in total you have 9 plus 1, 10 bytes there, whereas they have 2 bytes for 10,000, 2 bytes for 2112, plus the 2 option placeholders, so 2 plus 2 plus 1 plus 1, 6. And so you have this 4 bytes difference, which is the price you pay for sort of generalizing rather than optimizing for this specific use case. Yeah, and that's it, I think. Right, so the questions here are two. A, is there any interest for pursuing this feature, which has, popped up at various intervals in different ways, it seems to be, in the working group history, but has never been, tackled in some definitive way. And secondly, if and subordinate to that, if the proposal I'm putting forward here is a good starting point, or that it's defective in some way that you can see. So thank you very much. Hopefully that was clear enough.
Thank you, Thomas. Any questions, comments? Karsten has a list of questions.
Yeah, so I just typed while Thomas was speaking. This is probably not the complete list of questions, but I seem to remember that the specific idea came up like 2013 or so, and I have already forgotten what the draft was that in the end we decided not to do. So the question here really is, this is clearly missing functionality. One of the questions you will have to answer is the fact that this is missing a bug or a feature. Mm-hmm. So I ran into a spec that essentially says redirects are not used and something else about HTTP, which is exactly what we decided for CoAP. So there are other people who want to omit things that we could have. So that's a very fundamental question. But I think really the question is, do we have use cases that can guide us? So the more we know about the use cases, we can structure this feature in such a way that it really helps with this use case and maybe still keep it general while we are doing that. So that would be a first thing. I'm not asking Thomas to enumerate the use cases here, but I think we will need to do this for the further development of this feature, to have specific examples that show how good a solution is that we have designed. The second observation is that the CBOR any that is in your proposal still has some question marks on it. So when you define a media type, you define media type parameters, and these are always text strings. These text strings may have some structure in it, and typically part of that structure is obtained by simply having several media type parameters that you need to specify at the same time. So if you have a structure of values you need, you just define a number of parameters and they all need to be set. But what I'm trying to say is that we cannot just refer to a media type registration and imagine that we have a well-defined way to translate the textual nature of the parameters into a CBOR any. And I think we might be able to do something that solves that problem for 80% of the cases, but we need to do this explicitly. So we could say something like, if the parameter value looks like a decimal number, then you can put the number in binary there. So things like that we could say. So again, the use cases will help us understanding what is actually useful here.
Right.
And of course, doing a registry of parameter names also is very interesting.
Mm.
The third question that came up for me was, is it actually necessary to have mutual exclusion between the content format that maybe already has defined one parameter? So for instance, content format 0 defines one parameter, which may be a bad example because you never want to change that. But imagine that you actually want to change that. You would have to register a new content format that does not have the parameter, which may be illegal according to the medium type because that's a required parameter. So maybe override semantics for the parameter given is a better one.
Okay, interesting. I always thought this, okay, yeah, that's an interesting one.
And why we are doing this, another question that came up was, can we or do we maybe want to have the existing options and the new options combine in some way? So currently you have a place in the PCF to provide the content format. Maybe we can put the content format in its traditional option and just add a PCF option that provides the parameters. So I think we need to have an opinion on this. Of course, if you want paccept to have multiple alternative media types, that doesn't really mix
That's the
very
problem.
well.
That's
Yeah,
very problem.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. But I still think it's worth thinking in that direction. And finally, the question I have is, you can change media type parameters, but you can change neither media type nor content coding. And I think the use case to actually add a content coding to a defined media type is a very, very likely use case.
I thought about this and I couldn't find examples. That's why I refrained from adding a content coding optional bit in there. But if you say that's possible or even likely, then we should really stick an optional thing.
We have a few content formats that are just existing content formats plus a content coding slapped on them. And so these would be potential use cases where you might want to separate out the content type and content coding again. So I'm just, again, you said the right thing. I didn't find a use case. So having the right use cases will guide us in making these kinds of decisions.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for the excellent feedback. And the only thing I can probably answer, very, very, from my small corner is give you a couple of examples, which are these media types coming from RATS 148 and multiple for it, and a couple for Quorum as well, which are parameterized. And if we want to have RESTful APIs based on CoAP, not just on HTTP, that exchanges these payloads, then we probably need to have a way, a fluid way to identify these parameterized things without round tripping through IANA. Then there was this question from Michael on list about how many of these profile will pop up, and I don't know. I can't tell, but in general, but from my point of view, which is, in ARM, we have already 3 different profiles, and we are coming up with a 4th. So, and this is coming from a single vendor. So we might be, pathologic in this. I don't know exactly, but that seems like, there's a use case for this. And if we manage to produce 4 profiles in, say, a couple of years, then I suppose the ecosystem is going to be, even more prolific in this. So having to go through Ayana to get all these code points all the time, and that might be a bit of pressure that we want to push back on. But I'm not sure. I don't read the future. I can only tell you what we have at the moment, and based on that, make inference that might be completely wrong. So the draft is referred informationally from the draft that I'm talking about. One of the two, in fact, because the other one is not from the parameterized CF draft, and it's called eat media types, if I remember correctly. That's a use case I have to put on the table.
Christian? I can hear you at least. But I guess it's about the comment that we put in the minutes already on a possible way to have multi-accept, considering a combination, I guess, of the old options and the new ones proposed.
I'm not sure. I can't hear you anymore. Okay, I'll just assume that something broke when I tried to unmute. I'm sorry. No, I hear you. Can you say this again, please?
It breaks up
a lot.
Doesn't seem to work, sorry.
Christian, unfortunately, I cannot, cannot parse the stream. Yeah. As Francesca said. Oh, that's bad. Sorry.
That's even worse. Yes.
Yeah. I will do the Jabber scribe. Multi-accept based on existing opts could be array of params and optional group of CTN params. But I don't really understand that neither.
It may
Well, I
be
think
related to a comment from Karsten.
The idea is that if you want to combine content format with the traditional accept with the multi-accept, then you could do it in the way shown here. So you take the first content format out of the accept, and then the additional option would provide the parameters for that accept and additional pairs of
right. Okay. This was fantastic. This was the thing, and we said it was problematic. Gosh, something is wrong with the audio here.
Yes.
Was it me? I don't know. I've refreshed the.
Well, I'm hearing you loud and clear.
Yeah, me too.
Thomas, I had a few comments on the actual options as they are defined in section 4 and 5.
Yes.
So on the first one, maybe it's just worth adding a note, because if it is only about the original content format with no additional parameters to add, then it should really be about using the original content format option, right?
Yes.
Yeah, because the new one would be just inefficient. So maybe it's even worth a normative should, right? Because
okay, yes.
You never know. You may hit a server that doesn't even support the new option. Well, you'd be just fine with. Yeah. Okay. And on the second option instead, as I understand it, you may want to use it to indicate multiple content formats as they were defined originally with no new parameters, right?
Mm-hmm.
But based on the data model, then you have the outer array, including multiple arrays with one element only, the content format integer. And you'd be better to have instead, well, a single array, the outer one including the integers. And I think you can get there if you extend slightly the data model, like as is / content format.
Yeah, you're right. Absolutely spot on. Thank you.
Sure. And there again, in the extreme case where still you want to signal support of one content format only as it was originally
you
defined,
should not
just go for
should use a normal accept. Yeah. Thank you.
Oh, Christian just wrote in the chat with some use cases.
Gemini's languages, core profile. I don't know what Gemini's languages are, unfortunately. But thank you, Christian. Yeah.
And I will add my own comments to the minutes, so you'll find them later on.
Cool. I've noted them down, though.
Okay.
I think that the next step really should be a call for use cases. So could people please write short messages to the mailing list with one use case each for how this would be used for? I think that should enable us to collect this information in a painless way.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for the discussion. An incredible number of very good suggestions here. Thanks.
And by the way, speaking as an individual, I think it is a good starting point.
Cool. Okay. Great. We can jump to problem details then. Yes.
So I'll have to take a break in 3 minutes. Sorry about that. I was telling Marco in the beginning. I don't know if we want to start now or wait. Well, maybe we can start if you, Thomas, have to drop at the top of the hour. But yeah, maybe I can do a quick summary of. I hear a bit of echo. I don't know where it's coming from. So I sent this last call for comments on version 7, and what I've heard until now, or until today, is that there was rough consensus for keeping the appendix and the main body of the document together. But there were requests to add this additional clarifying paragraph at the beginning of the appendix about possible future updates. And thank you, Carsten and Thomas, for driving that additional text. And there was some back and forth, and I think that I haven't seen any objection to the last proposal that is in the PR. So Marco, could you maybe share the PR and the change text?
Yes.
Thank you. So there was some confusion from Martin at some point about tag 35 being deprecated and still not being deprecated and pointing to an obsoleted document. That made me think that maybe we want to, obviously not in this document, but to make it even more clear, we could think about adding like a note about that tag saying deprecated or something like that in the registry. And I think maybe that's a job for the notable tags document. That's an aside, and Carsten, feel free to jump in and disagree if you don't think that's. I just thought that because the conversation was a bit unclear, so.
Yeah, I think we should write some text about tag 35 for the notable text document. I already have generated a PR with some text about tag 38. I didn't really want to push this into the Internet Draft repository yet, but it's on the GitHub repo. So if you are interested in internationalization, please have a look at the notable tags document. But I think we can evolve that separately from this document. And Martin actually took a first look at what I wrote and seemed to think that this was the right direction forward. So I think we are making some progress there as well. And I think we
Great.
have a more general issue about tag evolution that just comes up in a completely different place again, where somebody is lamenting that the existing multidimensional array tag is limited to exactly the arrays that are defined in that spec, and he wants to actually add a couple of array types. And do we really need to define a new tag for that or not? I think that's a discussion we have to have over in the CBOR working group. So there is work to be done, but not for this document.
Yeah, I also wanted to underline one comment that has come up a couple of times that was not really answered in the mailing list, but the fact that this tag, tag 38, is defined with these. I mean, I think you said it, Carsten, but it was never really like agreed in the mailing list, I think, or I missed it. That there was some comments about this is sufficient or well-defined enough for this application of this document, but if other applications, this is not going to be the one tag to solve all of the like possible applications. So I thought that was clear, and I just wanted to make sure that we all agree on that. And yeah, so if other, I think
that's what the notable text document says, and it actually tries to be a bit more specific about what the area of application of this tag might be and where you have to switch to something more powerful. So right. I think we can have a good discussion about that over in that
document. Yeah, and the only thing is that because this document will be the reference for tag 38, we might want, like, this sort of comments, we might want to have a link from the IANA registry. I don't know, maybe later on we will update the references or something to make it easy for implementers to find that text and that those sort of. We don't have that document yet, but I hope you.
Yeah, my secret plan is to get the CBOR working group to actually adopt the notable text document when it's in a slightly better shape than it is now, and to actually get enough agreement for it for IANA to reference it. I don't know yet how to do that. We have to find out whether it needs to be an RFC first, which would be bad because it's actually a living document. But I think that should help with the current situation where you have all these tags and no idea which of those you actually should use.
Yeah. For example, when I was reviewing the situation with tag 35 and looking at, this deprecated, there is text, of course, about tag 35 in 8949, but that text is not like linked from the IANA registry. So kind of to find that text, you kind of have to like do a long tour around the documents. And so maybe the notable tags can deal, so my suggestion will be the notable tags to take a look at the IANA registry and possibly update the registry in a way that it adds maybe a column for notes or a column for like applicability, usability, or something like that. So it can also have references to other documents, not only the one where it was initially defined. But yeah, so we can take that in the notable tags. But for this document, I think that there was consensus around the paragraph that was added. This last sentence you added, when updating this appendix, keep in mind that applications beyond concise problem details may adopt the tag defined here. I agree with this, but also like from the comments that were in the mailing list, it was a bit, please do not use this mindlessly, kind of. Don't, this is not like the solve all type of tag. So I hope that we have agreement on that.
Yeah, I actually wrote text that says this in many more words.
Okay.
So
just making sure, because just because there was comments about that, and I didn't see any reply from you like authors agreeing on that. So
should we add already a pointer to notable tags? So if Carsten, if you push it through the data tracker, then we could have this pointer.
Well, I'd rather have it adopted by the working group before we do that. And we haven't done that yet.
True, but there's already, I've looked at the PR, and there's already, a lot of very good text there that says, the gist of the whole thing.
Sorry, I need to drop off for 10 minutes now. I'll be back.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
I mean, I'm very happy as is, right? I don't want to clutter the space, but if that is a concern, maybe already having an early pointer to there that can be followed throughout. Maybe by the end of before it goes out of the RFC queue into queue, with you could have that adopted already, and then you could update. And it would be easier then.
Yeah, I'm just trying to make up my mind whether it would be a good idea to add a pointer to that document. So the reason, one of the reasons why I wanted to have this in the notable tags document is that text in turn has tons of pointers to W3C documents that are snapshots in time that are useful to consult, but that are not normative in any conceivable way. So I'm not sure building a chain of wobbly little bridges here is exactly what we want to do.
Yeah, I was more into pointing the text that you have provided there, which is the one that says that provides the context for saying for advising people whether to use 38 or not, and in which case this 38 applies, and which other cases 38 is not good.
Yeah.
Not sufficient.
I think the one interesting observation is that we typically learn about that when the tag has been defined and has been stable for a while and has been used in applications. That's actually the point in time when we can write that text. Now with tag 38, we are a little bit ahead of ourselves, because that tag actually has been around for 8 years already. So we know how useful that is. Yeah, the general principle, I think, should be that we define a tag. Don't try to be overly predictive about the correct area of application. And then after the tag has been used for a while, write the text into notable tags that goes into more detail on what we learned. Yeah, so my plan was to actually merge this pull request and then push -08 and wait for Francesca to do something about that. And what I'm now hearing is that maybe we want to add a very weak pointer in the C++ sense to notable tags here. I'm yeah.
Well, you know, if you don't want to, I'm absolutely fine with what we have at the moment. I think it's even more than needed, but
Yeah.
you know.
Okay, but we do have kind of our work defined here that we have to make the notable text document better for its purpose. And that's something that we maybe can take to the CBOR working group and tell them that this should be done. Okay, Thomas, I think you need to go to some other meeting, so I do the submission stuff.
Oh, excellent. So we are in agreement that this can be pushed and published.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Thumbs up. And bye-bye.
Thomas,
Thank you
you
very much. Oh, no,
may
sorry.
Thomas, you may really want to check the minutes later on because Christian is adding, as we speak, links and info related to use cases. So
Splendid.
check this out later on.
Thank you, Christian.
Amazing. Thank you, Christian.
Thank you, Christian.
Thank you all for the excellent conversation, as usual. And bye-bye.
Thank you, Thomas, for making time. Thank you.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
So we can wait also for Francesca to come back, double check with her on these last points, but looks good otherwise. I think also people from different areas have a better understanding of each other now.
Yes.
Well, it can be smoother, but it was good, I think.
Yeah, we definitely got lots of stuff that was useful in polishing this.
Sorry, I'm back.
Yeah, we just decided we are not going to put in the pointer to notable tags right now. We are creating a -08 based on that pull request, and then we wait for you to do whatever you think should be
So
done.
I also wanted to just mention that when I started this 1 week call for comments, I also informed the rest of the ISG that there had been updates following ISG evaluation, just to make sure that the ADs had the opportunity of reviewing the changes, since the document they have reviewed has changed. I've gotten feedback, and there is no additional raised comments or blocking discuss from the ADs. So just for your information, the ISG is fine with the changes, and I think this additional paragraph is minor enough that I don't think that would be require any more attention from them. So I think I will send this, what I just said now about the summary, about the consensus and the ISG, and I will send this as a conclusion mail to the very long last call and art and core thread. And once you have submitted version 8, I will move the document forward. So thank you so much for all the work and the reactivity, Carsten and Thomas. It has required a bit of back and forth, but I think that we followed the process and that we got everything more or less right.
Yeah, and I can only say thank you for your help. these are waters that are not easy to navigate, and if you have an experienced pilot doing that for you, that's really great. Thank you. Good.
Yeah, then we are at the end of the agenda. Any other business? Anyone?
Do we have a overview of the agenda in Philadelphia?
I have a kind of local sketch, but I was hoping to talk to you and Jaime about that right
Good,
after the
okay.
cutoff. So yeah, I'll come back to you. We can talk on Tuesday or Wednesday next week.
Great. Okay.
We should totally make it in 2 hours.
I see that Michael has left as well, but I had one more comment about, because I will be going on leave at the end of next week at the latest. And on my list of documents, there is still the core SID document that is stuck with one discuss. So I know that this was not prioritized. More urgent drafts were worked on, but do you have any tentative update that I can give Murray or whoever is going to take that over?
Well, I'm still optimistic that I can make the internet draft deadline with the changes that we have agreed.
Okay.
But of course, these changes then need to be checked by all the people who were part of the agreement around Yang catalog. So we probably will see another version after that discussion has taken place.
So possibly after IETF 114.
Maybe, yes.
Yeah, and I, as you understand, I will not be able to like follow up with the ADs and try to get them to review their comments. So, or it's only Rob that has a blocking discuss, but
yeah,
I will suggest to be as insistent as you need to get the answer.
Well, I actually was wondering whether Eric Finke could look after the core SID draft for the next couple of months, because I think he is most informed about the mechanics that we have to make work right.
Okay, yeah, that's good. Thank you for telling me. I can ask him if he can take it over. Yeah. Normally, I mean, as this document is in ISG evaluation when one discuss, I think it shouldn't require too much shepherding. It's just making sure that that Rob is like agrees with the changes and clears his discuss. But I think although I think that it's been a while now, so now I'm forgetting how many changes there were, but it might need to go back to last call or to agree on the changes.
Yes, I would not be opposed to that.
Yeah, it's okay. I'll write this down for whoever takes over. Okay, great. And otherwise, I don't think Core has any other document that will be waiting for me. I think the Auth48 documents that we have, I've approved one today, but otherwise I will ping Murray that he will have to do that. And that was it from me.
Great.
Thank you for holding the fort while I'm gone.
Yeah, and have a wonderful time.
Thank you.
Okay, then thanks for today, everyone. See you, talk to you at IETF 114.
Thank you.
Thank you, bye-bye.
Thank you, bye-bye.
Thank you, bye.